I thought last week was a much-needed game. The last couple weeks, I think, coming into the season, certainly we don't have all our question marks answered, but I think it gave us the ability to play a number of young guys. I think it's documented where we played 16 or 17 true freshmen over the course of the last couple of weeks. So those two games gave us an opportunity to really get a look at those guys, get them some experience, much needed experience. And I saw some improvement across the board from those young guys in their effort and them being comfortable in that environment. I think the pressure to perform, handling some adjustments, and also putting some more pressure on some guys to be leaders that haven't been leaders across the board. Guys that have played football here. And Tony Hurd, that's been more of a leader by example, now has become more of a vocal leader. Jake Matthews, guys who were not in those roles, trying to really help those guys move on. Ben Molina, who's already done that. So from that standpoint, I think we accomplished quite a bit in the comfort level of those guys being able to play and have some success in the last couple of weeks, number one. And then number two, our coaching staff having the ability to evaluate those guys where they are right now in terms of being to help us long term during this season, and obviously in our first conference football game. So we've got a better comfort level with those guys now, and so do they. Coming into this week, I think we were able to get Kirby Ennis back last week to played a lot of snaps for us. I think the addition of Stephen Jenkins back on defense will be big, not just from a athletic and linebacker standpoint, but just from a leadership and experience standpoint. Here's a guy who's played in big games, understands what we're trying to do, doesn't panic, has made big plays for us. So he will help us. Devontae Harris coming back really early in the year and throughout the spring was battling and was a projected starter for us coming into the year. So he adds depth at corner. Whether he'll start the ball game or not, we'll see. But he's definitely a real factor for what we're trying to do, which gives us some more flexibility in the back end. Floyd Raven's injured. He'll be back sometime this season, but he won't play this weekend. But that gives us the opportunity to have some more moving pieces for this week, and a guy who can really play. So, moving into this week, I think that obviously for us, the attention is this is our first league game, and everybody's goal in this league. Or I can't say that. Certainly, our goal is to win the West and get to Atlanta and win an SEC championship. And in order to do that, you start with your league and particularly your division. So this week becomes our first league game, and I know our fans are excited. Obviously, our guys are excited, and it's going to be a heck of a game.
Questions, if you would, identify yourself once you get the mic in your hand, please. Meredith, you got one right here? Okay. Right here in the middle, Coach.
Mm-hmm. Kevin Rustyverse, 12 Man Magazine. Your guys seem to have a business-as-usual approach. So how much does it help to have so many guys who have played in big games last year heading into this marquee matchup?
I don't know. I think, I said in the summer, for our former students and for our community, for the university, our fans, excitement level is probably as high as it's been. People have told me, as a coaching staff and as an organization, we've got to remain consistent. I think really, really good programs and really, really good organizations, top organizations, are consistent in their approach. And that's what we're trying to do. That's, this is our second year in the league. So, we're just getting started at this thing. But I think it is important from internally for us to remain consistent in our approach, and I think our players feel that. It's fine for our fans. I want them to be as excited as they've ever been. I want this place to be as loud as it's ever been Saturday afternoon. But for us, I think it's good to hear that our players are reflecting that approach.
We'll go to the back and then down front.
Coach Jordan, overturftheeagle.com. A lot of this season you've been talking about leadership for the younger guys as well as some of the upperclassmen. What kind of leadership opportunities does this game against Alabama present for your team?
Every game presents leadership opportunities, and different people, I think different players continue to grow. We don't have a whole lot of seniors on this football team. We do have a number of guys that have played in meaningful games over the course of their career. We've got some young guys that have been in that. So, there'll be leadership opportunities in any ball game. We've had those arise in the first 2 weeks, and even though the score may not be indicative of maybe those opportunities from the outside looking in, you see the growth of players in certain situations, and being able to talk to guys on the sideline. That's all part of it. That's all how you grow as a team. So every game will present those types of challenges for a number of players.
Down front.
Brent Zwarneman, San Antonio Express News, Houston Chronicle. Coach Saban praised yesterday what you had done at U of H and so far at A&M, of course. And then he threw out there that he tried to hire you at LSU. What ultimately kept you, I guess, at Oklahoma at that point? And could you take us through that little story?
Well, it seems a while ago. I have a lot of respect for Coach Saban. And I think at the time when I went over to visit, it's kind of interesting. You walk in the room and it wasn't just him, but Jimbo Fisher was on the staff, Will Muschamp, Derek Dooley. So there's a few guys in that room that have become head coaches and have done pretty well. I think just the timing wasn't right. It just was a situation where there's some other things going on. I had to weigh some options. The interesting part of it was that we ended up playing LSU in the national championship game. And kind of a funny story, pre-game I was walking around, and it might have been Jimbo or Will. Somebody said, either way, you'd have been all right. You'd been in this game, So I've been real fortunate in my career, and like I said, I think the preparation. I think how he talks about the process all the time, and how Alabama goes about doing things. It's hard to argue that right now they're not the standard in college football, based on the number of national championships where they are and where their program is. And as I said, we're in year 2, and for this to be a game of this magnitude in our second year in this league tells you that we're on the right track, and we've got to continue to keep climbing. But we've got a lot of respect for Alabama. We've got a lot of respect for Nick Saban and how they do things.
We'll go to the far right and then down here to the middle.
Courtney Rowland, Rivals.com. Can you describe the impact that this weekend will have and could have on recruiting, especially expecting such a large number of prospects to attend the game?
Well, I think that it's already had an impact. We've got a large number of prospects that are going to be here. The move to the SEC obviously has been a boost for us. I think it wouldn't be as big of a boost if we didn't have some sort of success in the league last year. We didn't have all the success we wanted. We were extremely competitive and won a big game last year. But all that being said, I think the ability to compete and win in this league has really helped us too in recruiting. And you don't have a stage like this for this weekend if you're not a competitive program. And I think the high school coaches in this state who do a fantastic job of coaching and regionally recognizing that. And I think student athletes are recognizing that too, that, we've got a great situation here from a stability standpoint, from a support standpoint, from a facility standpoint, and from a league standpoint. And, you don't have to go 700, 800, 900 miles away anymore to get all those things. And that has been a big selling point for us since we've gotten here. And I think that message has been driven home every week that we play in the SEC, not just play, but play in meaningful games on big stages.
Down front here.
Jen Ingle, Fox Sports 1. Coach, the opinion has been stated by some in college football that the speed at which y'all play offense is not the direction people should want football to go. How do you respond to that?
Ought to be pretty obvious how I respond to it. We're going to go as fast as we possibly can. I haven't seen any data to support the player safety argument. I just, anything that's within the rules that's the way football is. That's any sport. If whether it's basketball, whether it's baseball and you're stealing bases, if it's basketball and you're a fast break full court press team, that's within the rules. Just because you don't want to play that style doesn't mean that that's not the way the game should be played. So I'm all for everything that's within the rules. There's been some discussion and people have, like Mark Rick said when we were in Bristol, the object is not to trick people. The object is to play the game at a pace that you're comfortable with. Maybe the other team's not comfortable with, and there's a reason they call it offense and they call it defense. Defense should not dictate the game. Offense should dictate the pace of the game. When they have the ball, they have the ability to slow it down or speed it up. And as long as it's within the rules of the game, players are set on offense. All 11 players are set and ready to go. The defense should have to match.
And one quick follow-up. A lot of us obviously came down here today to talk to your quarterback. Was it your decision for him not to talk? And if so, kind of what was the thinking behind it?
I thought he did a great job Saturday night after the game, post-game talking. And, expressing his feelings about his play Saturday and about his teammates' play. Quite frankly, right now, he and his family and, his advisors, his lawyers, his family have advised him not to talk. And I'll respect his wishes for that. And I think there'll be a time, as I said beforehand, there'll be a time when he'll be able to speak to the media. So in this instance, I'm going to respect his request not to speak to the media at this time. But like I said, I thought Saturday night he did a great job.
We'll go over here to Christy.
Christy Rican from the Associated Press. You spoke last week about how you were hoping to, bottle Johnny's intensity so he doesn't maybe get the penalties that he did.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay.
What I said was he plays with great emotion and intensity, and it's my job to have that emotion and intensity moving in a positive direction, because when that happens, great things happen.
Okay,
That's what I
so
said.
did you think that he did a better job of that this week? And can you talk about the growth
I think
he
he
showed
does
in
a
that?
really good job of that for the most part every week. And I think the intensity and the emotion that he plays with is part of his game. And I don't think anybody around football or college football that watches him play denies that. And as I said before, our job and his job is to channel that type of emotion into a positive way of doing things. And for the most part, he does that. Because, that's what separates him from a lot of different people, how he plays the game. And the emotion and intensity he plays the game, particularly at that position, which you don't see a lot. So that I think 2 weeks ago was not the norm. I think that was the exception and not the norm. Otherwise, we'd have had all those kinds of problems for the 13 games that he started a year before.
Over here. Kate.
Kind of along those lines, CBS has a camera focused just on Johnny on Saturday. Do you have a reaction to that?
I just heard about that this morning. I really just heard about it maybe an hour ago.
Yes, sir.
And, to me, it's interesting. Everything we do, everything I try to do, everything that we try to do here at Texas A&M is about team. And it's about building our team, building our program, and not being an individual. And, Saturday afternoon, you're going to have 2 football teams on the field. And, I don't understand why there's got to be one guy singled out to put a camera on the whole time. And that's not what we're trying to be about. That's not what we're trying to promote. And certainly, from an outside, from my standpoint, looking out, if all the criticism about individualism on a football team, I don't think that this helps enhance a team concept one bit.
And then if I could follow up on something different real quick. Coming off the missed PAT last week, a missed field goal, the kicking game factored into last year's Alabama game. Do you think the kicking game is where it needs to be?
I think that the kicking game will be a big factor in this game. All you got to do is look at what they've done in the return game. That was a huge factor in that Virginia Tech game. They did an excellent job. They've got really good skilled players. The misconception, I think, Alabama's a great defensive football team. And they've got great players. They've had a week of extra preparation. They're going to understand what they're doing. I think where people are getting it confused, they struggle a little bit on offense 2 weeks ago. But they've got tremendous weapons on the perimeter at wide receiver and a fabulous running back in T.J. Hilden, who's played in big games. And so they have the potential with home run threats across the board, and with a quarterback who understands what they're doing. So, they're an overall team, and that's what Alabama's been known to do. They struggled a little bit on offense last week. Defense played well, and special teams scored points and gave them short fields. They're a great team, and they're like we talked about earlier. They understand what they're doing to win football games, and with that being said, we're going to have to match that with our special teams play, and we had a high snap on one of them. It's not all Taylor Burlett's fault. Otherwise, I wouldn't have ran it down to a couple seconds and have him kick that field goal before the half, which he knocked through. So, I think any game like this, who knows what's going to happen. It could be a number of different things that factor into a win or a loss. But I also think that, our kicking game is improving and will continue to improve as the year goes on.
I'll go Kirk and then here in the middle.
Kirk Bowles from the Austin American-Statesman. Kevin, with what y'all accomplished last year and already a top 10 team again this year, do you feel like you've already become the top football program in this state? And could you see A&M become the next Alabama?
I wouldn't have come to Texas A&M if I didn't think that we wouldn't have the opportunity to be one of the top programs in the country. And, I think the combination of a lot of different things have led to our success between seasons. I think when you're talking about recruiting and being able to recruit at a high level, I think we're accomplishing that. And as I said, Craig, beforehand, being in the SEC is one thing, but if you're getting beat down in the SEC every week, like people said was going to happen to us, I don't know that we'd be able to recruit. at the level that we can recruit right now. And I think I know that people understand, players understand that, coaches understand that. We give certainly players in this state or even in this region a choice of a different league, and arguably the best league, in the country, to play in games like this Saturday. And just playing and or being a part of games like that this Saturday are one thing. Actually having people like this room and all kinds of trucks show up because it's a meaningful game is a different thing. And there's an appeal to players, young players, for that, and it should be, because if you invest that much time in what you're doing in high school and junior high and everything else, then at a certain point in your life, when you choose a university, from an academic standpoint, we're extremely competitive, but you also want the ability to play in meaningful games and against the best. And I think right now, we provide that opportunity, certainly for guys within 5-6 hours of here that maybe a few years ago that wasn't the case.
Go here in the middle and then to the far right.
James Sullivan, the battalion. Coach, can you discuss how Johnny has matured not only as a player but as a person since he first took the start against Florida last season?
I think it's well documented as a player. You just look at the last 6 games last year as opposed to the first 6 games of last year. There's no question he's a different quarterback. And a lot of that has to do with his maturity, but it also has to do with our understanding of him as players and coaches. What he can and what he can't do, what are his strengths and what are his weaknesses. And I think, in the off season, for you to sit down and from a football standpoint and talk to him about, all right, listen, the way I approach it with players, not just quarterbacks, but for a lot of guys, particularly young guys, is that, whatever you do best in the off season in film study, people are going to try to take that away from you. So what you have to do to become a really good player and at this level and higher is you need to take a real good look at what you don't do very well, what your weaknesses are, and try to eliminate them if you can. Some guys can't. Some guys are, 6'5", 240, and they're not going to get any faster in the pocket. All right, but what you can do is try to eliminate or cut down on some of your weaknesses or enhance those along with your strengths. And that's how you develop your overall game, just knowing how people are going to try to limit you. Because whatever you do best, that's the easiest thing for people to try to take away. That means that you're going to have to be so over the top at that if you haven't worked at your weaknesses that, you're just a different guy. And I think it takes a mature guy to sit down and look at that and say, all right, here's where I'm not very good. Here's where I need to get better. Can you help me with this? Can I work on this? Can I get as much out of this as I can to strengthen those areas while continuing to strengthen what you do best? And that's how you become a better player. That's how you become a more rounded player. And because of that, you can be able to have success in different facets.
Far right, and then we'll come over here to Olin, and then George will wrap us up.
Tiffany Blackman, CSN Houston. You mentioned some of the offensive struggles. In particular on the O-line, there's some new faces. What did you see that stood out on film from them, and how does that shape your defensive game plan?
It's always interesting. You look at first games. Virginia Tech hadn't been a slouch on defense last time I checked over the last few years. So, that's all relative. You got young guys playing, just like we had young guys playing on defense. Communication can be one thing. Talent level is there, but when you have a defense, maybe like Virginia Tech, that can be multiple and move guys around, communication can be an issue. But there are plenty of weapons there. And there's, you've got it. Whenever you face a veteran quarterback who has the ability to change things during the game, based on the looks, that's always a concern. And you've got a couple, even though our guy's a second-year guy, you've got a couple veteran quarterbacks in this game that will have a huge impact on the outcome.
Olin, and then George, you'll finish this up.
Olin Buchanan, Texas. Coach, how do you feel about your coverage team so far, and what do you do to try to handle the threat that Christian Jones, that he presents on returns?
We're just going to have to keep working at it. It's I think as we get better personnel, we get some guys back. We've got a lot of young guys that we played in the last couple of weeks to get them ready for league play. But we've got some veteran guys like DeShazer, who's only been out there for a half in the last 2 games, and Stephen Jenkins and guys like that who have been part of our coverage units. And, when you start adding 2 or 3 guys that are veteran guys out there, that makes a huge difference in terms of recognizing returns and being able to deal with different schemes and the recognition where, freshmen are out there just kind of running up down the field. So we're coaching those guys hard. Jeff Banks does a great job with our guys, but we got to be ready to go. That, like I said, that was a big difference in that game the other night with Virginia Tech, and it's something that they take pride in. Obviously, something Virginia Tech has been known for over the course of the years since Coach Beamer was there, and for them to have that kind of success tells you what kind of level they're operating on in special teams.
Okay, George.
George Schroeder, USA Today. Kevin, you thought about asking CBS not to use the Johnny Cam?
Like I said, I heard about it, and you just asked me about it. I just said what I thought.
Would you consider asking them not to do it? I understand why you wouldn't want them to do it.
No, it's just something that, I'm sure there'll be a discussion after what I just said, but you guys know me. I'll tell you what's on my mind.
And expectations and the hype externally have grown tremendously since, this time a year ago, obviously. Do you have a different set of challenges in managing the program and players than you did a year ago? I'm not speaking specifically about any one player, just overall. Is it different for you, new challenges, and if so, what might those be? How might
I'd probably be lying to you if I told you no. As much as consistent. In this room, it probably hadn't changed very much, just because of our approach day to day with the players and our coaches. When we leave here, and I take out my phone, and all you guys are talking about what we're supposed to be and how big this game is and everything else. That's when the problems come. With my 2 little boys who are 9 and 11 and watch television all the time and see all the trucks outside, and they recognize how big things are. Yeah, that's great. And like I said beforehand, I think it's great for our university. The excitement level and particularly for this weekend and for this year, it has been great. Managing that, I don't know that that's something that I have to manage. I don't know that you can manage it at this level of football. And I think everybody wants the same end game. Everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants our program to, not just football, but our athletic programs across the board in the SEC to be successful. I think, we're pretty visible right now, and because of that, that's what you want as a coach. You come into situations, and as things start to progress, you want to be in meaningful games, and you want your team to have a chance to play in those meaningful games, not just now, but in November. And, as a coach, I've spent my time managing the football team. I don't have a whole lot of time to manage what's going on outside of it. Does that make sense?
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right.